When the heir to a billionaire empire decided to play a joke on the company's new cleaner, he had no idea that the invitation would change his life. He just wanted to make the office laugh, but she turned up like no one expected. Elegant, serene, dazzling, and with a past he could never have imagined. At that moment, laughter turned to silence, and contempt turned to desire. But between them there was a whole world of distance, and a secret capable of destroying everything. How did a simple woman manage to face prejudice, overcome humiliation, and touch the heart of someone who had always treated her as invisible? Get ready for a story of forbidden love, suspense, overcoming, and a twist you won't forget. This story is going to get more and more intense. And if you've come this far, it's because you're feeling it too. So please subscribe to the channel now. Many people watch, cheer, get emotional, but forget to click on the subscribe button. That makes all the difference for us to keep bringing you profound stories like this one. And do you think Min-sok will be able to take down Ji-won?
Kang Joon-ho, 32 years old, was the typical heir of a wealthy family in Seoul. Smart, handsome, and arrogant. He grew up surrounded by luxury and always got everything he wanted. He was the youngest executive director at his father's tech company and loved to show off his power, often with the hint of disdain toward the lower classes. That Monday morning, he arrived early at the company's headquarters, where a new cleaning staff member was starting. The head of HR joked sarcastically, "They say the new cleaner is quite young, even pretty for someone who mops floors." Joon-ho smirked. "Maybe I'll invite her to the executive dinner. Let's see if she shows up." Everyone laughed. It was obvious no one expected the cleaner to take the invitation seriously. Her name was Han Ji-won, 28 years old. Orphaned at 13, she grew up in a rural orphanage. She always fought to survive, taking small jobs and studying at night. She passed first in a public service exam, but could never take the position because she had to care for her younger sister, who had cerebral palsy. That's why she accepted the cleaning job in Seoul, desperate to pay for her sister's expensive medication. When she overheard the director's remark and the laughter, her face flushed with humiliation. But she took a deep breath and decided, "I'll go, and I'll go as myself. No one will laugh at me." That Friday evening, she appeared at the executive dinner in the company's grand hall. She wore a simple yet elegant dress, bought with what little was left of her paycheck. Her hair was neatly tied, her makeup light but carefully done. She walked in with her head held high. The room froze. Silence took over. Joon-ho was speechless. This wasn't the cleaner he had expected to ridicule. This was a presence, a lady, and yet there was something in her eyes he couldn't decipher, a hidden pain behind the serenity. "You actually came," he muttered, stepping closer. "You invited me, didn't you?" she replied, not sarcastically but firmly. The dinner unfolded with stares, whispers, and tension. Some giggled behind their napkins, but she remained unfazed. She ate with grace and answered questions about her life with intelligence, not playing the victim, just being honest. Her confidence made many there uncomfortable. At the end of the night, Joon-ho walked her to the exit. What began as a joke was now shaking him in a way he couldn't understand.
"You surprised me," he said, standing beside his luxury car. "I didn't come to surprise you. I came because I've learned never to be ashamed of who I am." He stood in silence. The following week, he started watching her,
in the halls, in the elevators, at the break room. She did her job with dignity and silence. She never asked for anything, never looked at him with desire or fear, and that disturbed him deeply. Junho, used to being admired, started to realize he wanted her to notice him. But Ji-won didn't seem impressed by expensive cars or tailored suits. Until one day, he walked into the admin office and saw her sitting there crying. She tried to hide it, but he couldn't ignore it. The pain she'd been holding had finally overflowed. "What happened?" he asked, no longer in his usual cold tone. She hesitated. "My sister is getting worse. Her medicine isn't working anymore, and the new one is too expensive." Silence. In that moment, something shifted in Junho. The next day, he discreetly asked HR to look into her background. He found not only the story about her sister, but also that Ji-won had passed several public exams and declined all of them to care for her family. She was smarter and more capable than many people in the company, and that shook him even more. Then he began to challenge her in subtle ways. He'd ask for her help with small things, her opinion on trivial matters. Each answer from her intrigued him further. "Have you ever thought about going back to school?" he asked casually one day. "I have, but some choices come at a cost, and I don't regret mine." Time passed. Ji-won became a constant thought in Junho's mind, and without realizing it, he was falling for her. But he couldn't admit it, not there, where everyone could see, where his reputation would be questioned. But Ji-won knew she was feeling something too, and it scared her more than anything. Because it wasn't just a forbidden love, it was the risk of getting hurt again. And there was something in her past that she had never told anyone. Something that, if he found out, might destroy any chance they had.
Days passed, and Junho couldn't get Ji-won out of his mind. The woman who'd started as a joke now consumed his thoughts from morning to night. But it wasn't just attraction, it was admiration, unease, and guilt. He had never truly cared about anyone but himself. And now he found himself watching how she fixed her hair, how she held her posture even when being looked down on, how she smiled discreetly when talking to colleagues in the break room. She was different, strong, untouchable. One rainy afternoon, he saw her cleaning the stairwell alone. The main elevator was under maintenance, and no one had told her. Soaked, she kept scrubbing the steps as if it wasn't humiliating. He rushed down. "Han-ji-won," he called, his voice filled with urgency and guilt. She turned. Her hair was wet, her uniform clinging to her body from the drizzle, but her eyes were still steady. "Why are you doing this alone?" "Because it's my job." "This isn't right. Since when does justice apply to those who clean the floors, Director Kang?" It felt like he'd been punched. For the first time, he had no response. The next day, he asked her to come in for a meeting. He booked the top-floor conference room. No cleaning staff had ever set foot in there. Ji-won entered cautiously. "Why am I here?" He hesitated, then spoke. "I want to make you an offer. You're incredibly smart. Your resume is stronger than many people in administration. I want to offer you a spot on the internal communications team." She looked at him, surprised. "Do you pity me?" "No, I'm trying to correct a mistake and recognize talent." She took a deep breath. "I'm not accepting a position just because you surprised me at a dinner." "That's not it." "I know, but if I accept, people will say I only got it because of you, and I never want to be seen that way." He said nothing. She stood and left. But what Ji-won didn't know was that Junho had already asked HR anonymously to open an official job posting with a full selection process just for her. He wanted her to be hired by merit, with no trace of his involvement.
15 days later, the position was announced. She applied, went through interviews, tests, group activities, and she passed with flying colors. When she got the result, she couldn't hold back her tears. For the first time, she was being seen for who she was, not judged by where she came from. Her first day on the new role was tense. Many whispered in the hallways, doubted her behind her back, but she stood firm. She studied hard, delivered flawless reports, brought creative solutions to long-standing problems. Within a few months, she had earned admiration. Meanwhile, Jun-ho battled himself. He wanted to get closer, to tell her how he felt, but his pride and fear of what society would say held him back. One evening, as she was leaving the office, he appeared at the elevator. "Heading out?" "Yes, long day. Can I give you a ride?" "I prefer to walk. The subway reminds me I'm real." He smiled, but there was pain in his smile. "You're more real than everyone in this place combined, Ji-won." She didn't answer, but that same night she found an envelope under her door. Inside was a note. "There are things money can't buy, and you taught me that without saying a word. Jun-ho." Ji-won cried, but the next day she acted as if nothing had happened. She needed to protect herself. She needed to keep her life intact, because something from the past was about to resurface, and it could ruin everything. Her ex-boyfriend, Min-suk, had found out where she was. He knew the secret she'd been hiding, a mistake from the past, a trail of pain, and he was ready to use it.
Ji-won was finally beginning to breathe a little peace. Her new role was demanding, but she felt valued. The scars of the past seemed to be healing, until a name reappeared on her phone screen. Min-suk. She froze. The message was brief. "Do you really think you can start over without paying for what you did?" On instinct, she deleted it, but the trembling in her hands gave her away. Min-suk was a chapter she had tried to bury. They had dated for 2 years back when she worked as a waitress in a late-night restaurant. He was charming, but possessive, violent, and manipulative. And it was with him that she made the biggest mistake of her life. She got involved in a money-skimming scheme at the restaurant. When everything came to light, she took the fall alone, just to avoid being beaten by him again. She paid for it with 3 months in a semi-open prison, and she swore never to look back. But now he was back, and he knew where she was. In the following days, Ji-won became distant. She avoided her co-workers, left early, and kept looking over her shoulder. Jun-ho noticed. "Did something happen?" he asked. "No, I'm just tired." But he didn't believe her. He started watching her more carefully, and one night he followed her to the subway station. That's when he saw it, a tall man in plain clothes leaning against a pillar waiting for her. They argued. He grabbed her arm. She pulled away and walked quickly toward the train. Jun-ho recognized instantly the type of man Min-suk was: cold, threatening, dangerous. The next day, Ji-won was called into his office. "I saw what happened yesterday. Who is he?" he asked. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "Someone from my past. I made mistakes, Jun-ho, and I'm not proud of them." "Are you afraid?" he asked. "I'm just trying to start over, and I don't want anyone here to know what happened, especially not here." "Do you trust me?" She hesitated. "I'm learning how to trust." He didn't push, but secretly he called his lawyer, asked him to investigate Min-suk's background. A week later, another bomb exploded. A photo of Ji-won in a prison uniform started circulating among the employees. It was old, but real. Someone had leaked it. The company turned into a judgment ground. Many demanded her dismissal. Others whispered cruel things in the hallways. Only a few remained silent, clearly uncomfortable. Jun-ho walked into the communications department and said loudly, "If anyone here has never made a mistake in life, feel free to leave the company now." If not, mind your own business." There was silence, but he knew this situation could ruin her reputation forever. That night, Ji-won walked into his office, her eyes red, her voice trembling. "I didn't have to defend me. I'm used to falling. And I'm tired of seeing good people on the ground. You are not your past, Ji-won. You are what you built after it." She cried, but not from pain, for the first time from being embraced. The next morning, Jun-ho called all the directors into a meeting and announced, "The company is launching a new professional reintegration program for people with criminal records, because talent isn't defined by past mistakes, but by the courage to begin again." It was a scandal. Headlines in the media, investors demanding answers, but he stood firm, and, surprisingly, the company's stock value rose days later. The move gained national attention. Ji-won became a symbol of resilience. But at the same time, Min-sok was still lurking. He didn't want money. He wanted revenge. He wanted to see her fall. And Ji-won knew he wouldn't stop until he completely destroyed her.
The following weeks were a whirlwind for Ji-won. The reintegration program announced by Jun-ho had made her a symbol of resilience for many, but also a target for others. Her every move was now watched, gossiped about, and scrutinized. The pressure was unbearable. But none of it hurt as much as the shadow of Min-suk. He began lurking near the company building, waiting outside, sending threatening messages. Ji-won even filed a police report, but the authorities claimed he hadn't done anything concrete yet. One morning, as she exited the subway, she saw him just a few steps away, smirking mockingly. "Pretty little world you've built. Too bad it's all lies," he whispered, far too close. She walked away quickly, heart pounding. At the office, she tried to act like everything was fine, but her body screamed otherwise. Constant pain, insomnia, anxiety attacks, and a voice inside her whispered, "You won't make it." Until one night, Jun-ho surprised her as she was leaving. "I hired private security to protect you, discreetly," he said. "I don't want you going through this alone." She wanted to refuse, but for the first time, she felt relief. Someone saw her pain. Then came Min-suk's final blow. During a press conference about the company's new social program, Ji-won was invited to represent the employees who had benefited. But before she could speak, a man stood up in the audience and shouted, "This woman is a criminal, and she's lying to you all." It was Min-suk. With his phone in hand, he began showing old photos, messages, and false claims. He insinuated that she had manipulated Jun-ho, using her position to clean her image and hide crimes. Chaos erupted, cameras, flashes, shouting. Ji-won froze. But Jun-ho didn't hesitate. He stood, took the microphone, and spoke loudly for all to hear. "I knew everything from the beginning, and I still chose to support her, because she is not a criminal. She's a woman who paid for her mistakes, rebuilt herself, and today represents the most honest part of this company." Silence filled the room. Min-suk tried to argue, but was escorted out by security. Ji-won cried, not out of shame, but out of liberation. For the first time, someone stood by her side, in public, without hesitation, without hiding. In the following days, the press was harsh, but public opinion was divided. Many supported her courage. Others criticized the company. But something inside her had changed. That same week, she received a call from the district attorney's office. Min-suk was being investigated for extortion and defamation. Other victims had come forward, and the prosecutors asked for her help to build a case. Ji-won hesitated. Reliving it all would be painful. But when she looked in the mirror,
She saw she was no longer the scared woman she once was. She said yes. Days later, she gave a full statement. She detailed the abuse, the threats, the guilt she had carried alone. It was hard, but liberating. Jun-ho was waiting outside the courthouse. "You were incredible," he said, moved. "I almost gave up, but you gave me strength. And now, I finally feel like I can truly breathe. There's something I need to tell you, Ji-won. I didn't just admire you for what you faced. I fell in love with who you are. And I'm done pretending that I didn't." She was silent. For a few seconds, she said nothing. Then she looked into his eyes. "Me too." But their world was still complicated. He was the company's director, she a newly promoted employee. A relationship would bring trouble, suspicions, scandal. "If we want to be together, we'll have to be stronger than all of this," she said. "I'm willing. I just need to know if you are." She smiled, for the first time with lightness. "I've fought so hard to get my life back. Now, I want to choose who I share it with."
The following months turned Ji-won and Jun-ho into a secret couple. Their relationship blossomed behind the scenes, far from the eyes of the press and company executives. They knew that any misstep could cost them everything. But the heart doesn't understand boundaries. The glances exchanged in the elevator, coffee cups delivered with hidden notes, quiet getaways through empty hallways. It was like living a secret and dangerous romance. Still, there was peace. For a while. Until one board meeting changed everything. An anonymous dossier was delivered to the company president. Inside, it contained fabricated evidence that Ji-won had received undue benefits in exchange for personal favors to director Jun-ho. Manipulated photos, edited conversations, falsified bank statements. The scandal was instant. The media reacted furiously. Headlines spread like wildfire. "Janitor seduced CEO and was gifted a promotion." "Front company. Love or corruption?" This time, it wasn't just Min-suk. These were voices from the upper ranks, people who had never accepted her presence there. Jun-ho was temporarily suspended. Ji-won was placed on investigative leave. Her world collapsed once more, but this time with more pain. Because now she wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for both of them. She locked herself in her apartment for days, deleted social media, avoided calls. But amid the silence, one notification caught her attention. Video message received. It was from the company's former security guard, a humble man, an old friend of Jun-ho's, who had been fired without explanation after the scandal. In the video, he revealed a hidden recording from the day the dossier was created. "I thought this might save an innocent person one day," he said in the footage. In it, two directors were shown conspiring to frame Jun-ho and clean the company's image from emotional scandals. It was the proof. With renewed courage, Ji-won submitted the video to the prosecutor's office. Within 48 hours, the investigation was closed and the real culprits were exposed. Her name was cleared. Jun-ho's, too. But something inside her still bled. On the day he was reinstated, Ji-won didn't show up. Not at the press conference, not at the celebratory dinner, not in the days that followed. She had vanished. Jun-ho tried to reach out, called, sent messages. All went unanswered. Until he received a letter. Handwritten, unsigned. "You taught me what true love is, but you also showed me how cruel the world can be to those who dare to live that love outside the rules. I've been strong until now, but now I need to find myself again.
The woman who once cleaned hallways and dreamed of being invisible now wants to learn how to be seen by herself. If it's real love, life will find a way to bring us back together. He cried as he read it. He didn't try to find her. He understood, and he respected it. A year passed. The company changed. Equity programs expanded. The former cleaning department now had a representative on the board. And Jiwan? She was far from there, giving lectures at universities, writing a book, employing former inmates through an NGO she built from the ground up. But she never forgot him. On a summer day, during a public event for social inclusion hosted by the company, she was invited to speak. She accepted. She stepped into the auditorium, and there he was, Junho, standing, waiting. When their eyes met, no words were needed. She walked up to the stage. One day, I was called an opportunist, a seductress, a criminal. Today, I'm called a leader, a role model. But none of those words define who I am, because I am made of my own story, and only I know what it took to get here. The audience rose in applause. At the end, as everyone was leaving, he came closer. I still believe in us. She smiled, looked into his eyes. Then let's start again, but this time as equals. And in that moment, there was no millionaire and janitor, only two souls who had survived the impossible and chose to love again. True love isn't the one that ignores the past. It's the one that accepts the pain, faces rejection, and still chooses to stay. Jiwan didn't need a prince. She needed to recognize herself as a queen. Only then could she love again without fear. Did this story move you? Then stop right now and subscribe to the channel. Seriously, so many people watch to the end, feel every twist, cry, cheer, root for the characters, and forget to click that button. That click makes all the difference for us to keep bringing you real, powerful stories full of emotion and transformation. Tell us in the comments, would you have the courage to love someone even knowing it could cost your reputation? And share this video with someone who needs a little hope. We'll see you in the next story.